you can't panic in the water, because if you panic in the water, you're gone. Like you will like ascend right up and you're gone. You realize how minuscule you are as a person and how small your entity is in if you compare it to the expanse of the world.
So hello and welcome to Balancing the Act. Today I am with Akanksha Maker. She's a travel editor, a consultant for many companies, and today we are going to talk much more about what she does in her life, why she does it, and where she's doing it. So Akanksha, thank you for taking the time out and welcome to Balancing the Act. We are in season 3 and it's a privilege to speak to you today.
Thank you, Kevin. It's an absolute honor to be here, and I'm so happy to be doing this as well.
So Akanksha, let's get to it right away. Let's try to understand how you've basically become a travel editor, because see, a lot of people who are listening to the podcast are really interested in travel. They want a lot of information out of this episode, I'm sure. So tell us about your journey of how this began, basically from how you become a travel editor. See, there are a lot of people that I know who are editors, but travel editors are limited. So tell us about it.
Yeah. So it was back in 2015, and I had worked with a couple of companies in digital marketing. I had come back after doing my master's in London from the University of Westminster in marketing and communications, and I was just kind of in that phase where I was figuring out what I want to do with my life. I was about 24, 25, and trying and testing different things, and somehow there was always a calling which kept happening with travel. Even before that, like I used to keep traveling with my parents, because my parents also love traveling. So we explored a number of destinations even before I went into college and stuff. And even while I was doing marketing, I ended up working with Singapore Tourism Board, and I was doing content for a lot of travel oriented brands as well. And there was this opportunity that came along for this magazine, Business Traveler India, which was launching in the country. And a friend of mine just kind of, messaged me saying that, hey, why don't you apply? You may be a good fit for their marketing. So I was like, sure, okay, why not? And then I interviewed for the editor part of it instead of marketing. And I was told that this job requires a lot of travel, and you're going to have to visit all these places and cover all these things. And I was like, okay, that sounds like too good to be true. Like you're actually going to get paid to travel. I was like, sure, I don't believe this is happening, but whatever.
But let's go with it. Yeah.
And it worked out. Yeah, like I joined in as the assistant editor, and it was the wonderful part of my life. Like it was a wonderful journey, starting the magazine from inception, and being a part of launching a new brand itself is so much fun. And then when there's travel involved, it's even better. So we had the liberty to draw an entire mood board of how we wanted the magazine to look. We designed everything from scratch. We bookmarked places that we wanted to cover, different kinds of stories and cities that we wanted to cover, and then it just started, like a journey started. And for the next couple of years, I would say about 3 to 4 years, I was pretty much getting on a plane twice a month, visiting different places, whether it was for marketing or whether it was for creating stories and creating content. It was non-stop, and it was wonderful because for me it was always about the stories that I collected, rather than just ticking off tourism, like tourist places from my bucket list. It was more about the people that I was meeting. It was more about the experiences that I was getting. It was not so much, okay, Eiffel Tower, dekh liya, ye kar liya. Like it was more than that. So, for example, like my trip to France was so memorable that I made like wonderful friends on that trip, and we're still great friends. Like we have a group called Girls of France, wow. So we got so close, and it's the memories that you make from these trips that stay on with you. So, and I think my travel editorial role helps me kind of realize that this is my passion. And, whether I stick to Business Traveler or I join the publication or whatever it is I do, I would always want to be connected to travel in some way or the other, because the kind of satisfaction and the kind of contentment that I get when I explore places and I collect stories is unlike anything I experience in my life. So for sure, this was my calling. And then I jumped around a little bit. I worked in different companies. I did PR. Then I eventually came back as well to the same publication. And recently have joined another magazine called Svasa Life. It is a brand new luxury lifestyle magazine by a 90-year-old Bangalore-based family business conglomerate. And I am kind of a part of that. And again, building a brand new magazine. So it's a lot of fun, and travel is an integral part of what I'm doing there as well.
All right. So when you talk about travel, you talk about stories and people that you've interacted with. What type of content does excite you most? Like, uh, I understand that you're getting to go there and getting to visit a fam or do something that is very typically things that tourism board will help you or a hotel will help you. But what is it that you want to bring out in the story? What is important for you?
I think it's extremely important to dig deeper and to find stories which are not mainstream and not conventional, which not too many people have heard about, which not too many editorials have spoken about as well. So it is about kind of delving deeper into the place and finding stories which are not spoken about that much, whether it is, like a business which has been running for like 100 years in a place which has not been spoken about, but there are like generations behind it, behind the culture or the craft. Like now we're planning a trip to Jodhpur, so we're hoping to kind of find those stories. We don't want to talk about the regular things which have been done, but we want to talk about different things of people and places which are not conventionally spoken about in mainstream media.
All right. So let's
So
jump
like a
into.
different storytelling approach. Yeah.
Got what you're saying.
Yeah.
In more actual terms, like you're searching for the unconventional, something that is offbeat, or something that maybe another magazine would not write, right? Or would write, but you want to
Yeah,
get there
and
first.
that too, because I feel like travel journalism has become like the thing. Like everybody wants to be a travel blogger or travel influencer. Everyone calls themselves that as well. But authentic content is a little limited, and people who actually tell you stories that you want to hear about are also very less. So I'm getting the opportunity with Vasa Life as well to do that. And as a person as well, I think this is what I want in my life right now, where I seek out stories which are hard to find and seek out stories that not many people know about, which interest people and intrigue that curiosity in you that you know you really want to kind of take care of.
So let's discuss what was your most memorable trip recently and how, because this is a travel podcast and you're a travel editor, so I think the theme's just flowing. And we need to understand about, your trip and what it was about and why you went rather.
Yeah. So apart from work-related travel, which is not that frequent now, I'll be honest, I I want to seek, different kinds of trips, which I have always wanted to do since a kid. So a diving trip was something that had been on my mind since forever. And, I was just, for me, when 2020 started, I was like, okay, this is the year I will become a certified open water diver no matter what. Or I will give it a shot. Even if I do it
Mhm.
and I fail, it's all
It's
right.
okay.
I just want to give it a shot.
Mhm.
Because it's okay. Like, we're not doing this to prove anything to anybody. You're
Right.
doing it for yourself, right? So I planned the diving trip with my best friend, and we went to the Maldives to get certified, essentially as an open water diver under the PADI certification. So PADI is the worldwide the certification company that
Accreditation
awards,
company.
yeah, the accreditation, sorry, that awards all these
Mhm.
certifications to people, and they have different levels as well for certification. And the first level was open water diver, which I completed recently a few months ago in the Maldives. So there is it is a whole process, right? So becoming an open water diver, there are three parts to it. The first aspect is a theory where you have to study, or they give you a syllabus which takes about 17 hours worth of your time, and you can do it online. So every day would kind of like, once I'm done with work, I would sit on my laptop and study. And you have to give like different exams. So then there is a final exam as well that you have to give. So theory is like your education part of PADI, and then comes the pool training. So of course, you can't just jump into the ocean like after doing theory, because there is a lot that comes into becoming a diver. So even in the theory, like you learn and you are taught about like the pressure, the different aspects of breathing. What happens if your mask is out in the water? What happens if you lose your body? What happens if you're out of air? Um, you have to be prepared for the worst. And in the theory part, they kind of teach you like literally in terms of academic learning or how to be prepared for the worst.
Alright.
So they have different videos and stuff like that, and you have to give an exam. So then that is one aspect, and then there is a pool training, and then there is an open water dive. So for that, there are a few schools in Bombay which do it, and I reached out to Orca Diving Club, which is in Vile Pale, I think, and they kind of helped me with my theory and pool training, and they were wonderful. I would highly recommend everybody to do their first part over there because if you think about it, it is expensive to complete like your entire diving course somewhere abroad or even in the Andaman, which is by the way fantastic for diving in India. But I just thought that if Maldives is something that I want to do for diving, I rather spend lesser time there
Doing the theory.
actually diving, than doing like the studying and all that in Maldives because you don't want to do that. And I have visited the Maldives in the past, and it is one of my most favorite destinations in the world. It is not at all overrated. When I feel like I'm in paradise, like the second time I visited, and I can't even believe my eyes that is the color of the water there. Like, and I'm a complete water baby. So for me to be there is like being in heaven. Like, I just never want to come back. I literally cry every time both the times I've come back, I have cried. Like, it's that people. So yeah. So the pool training happened with Orca,
Alright.
and they were wonderful. Like, so they have a pool in Andheri, where we did our training, and it is a 17-feet pool. So it is, I think, one of the deepest pools that they have in Bombay. So they picked that place, and it was like a Saturday Sunday thing. So finished off all the work, and then both the days from like 10 in the morning to evening, we would just like I was doing my pool training with them, where
Okay.
they teach you basic things like you wear your entire scuba suit, you wear the entire tank and everything, and the regulator. It's like you're actually like ready to dive, and then you jump in, and then the kind of like there are different things where you have a buoyancy control device, the BCD, which is essentially like a float that you wear, and it when you inflate it, you're floating because it's like a
Okay.
life jacket. And then as like
You
you keep
deflate it.
deflating it, there is a button, and then you keep sinking, sinking, sinking.
Okay.
And then you also add in like weights on your body because it is a little difficult to then go to the ocean, like the lowest part, because you would keep rising up.
Correct.
So mastering it is all about mastering your buoyancy because you can't go like this or you can't go like this. You have to stay like this in the water.
Alright.
And you're essentially like floating like I was telling you previously as well, it's like you're an astronaut. And like how you I guess this is how astronauts might feel when
In
they're
space.
in space. Yeah, because you're literally floating and like you're just like gliding through the water. So yeah, this is a little bit of the pool training. Like we learned quite a bit pool training itself, and then the diving happened in the Maldives. There are after that you have to do 4 open dives
Alright.
when you
Okay.
actually dive into the water
Water.
and you dive into the open ocean, and that's it. Like that is that's what you work so hard for, right?
So that's
Like
the reward.
the first one itself, I was so overwhelmed because it was much harder because like in the pool training the water still everything is different. There's no sand, all of that. Here we're walking with like 10 kilo uh, uh, tanks walking into the ocean and doing all of that, and I'm just like, no, I can't do this. Like, there were a few moments where I was like, I don't think I'm cut out for this, and it's all right. And apart from that, like we ended up going at the worst time possible. So it was monsoon, and unfortunately, it was so choppy that the waves were crazy. The ocean was not very conducive to diving. It was not friendly at all. But then we fought through it, and then the dives. Once you're in the water, like I tell this like to my friends as well, and they make fun of me that I feel calmer in the water than I do on land because
Right.
as usual, I'm a very chaotic person and I'm like a little anxious as well. But when I'm in the water, I literally forget that anxiety exists and I forget that anything exists except it's just me and the water and it's me and the marine life. And yeah, like it has been the most uh, empowering. It has been the most enriching experience of my life. It's just been really rewarding. So even those 4 dives, like each of the dives was so different, and like we saw like such different kinds of animals and fish in every dive. And like there were hiccups, of course. Like I felt like I was not able to equalize. I felt that I was getting a little scared. I was, kept checking. Like you have to keep checking your air pressure as well. How less is your oxygen? Because the minute you reach like 50 bars, you have to ascend. You can't get run out of air. So
Mm-hmm.
even like if you run out of air, you can't dive alone. You have to dive with the buddy always. So
Okay.
you tell your buddy that like you're out of air, and like there are actions, right? Because you can't talk in the water. So you have to say you're out of air, and then like you take their it's called the octopus, their air support, and then you take their air and then ascend up.
So did something
So
like this
yeah,
happen?
like they
No.
did taught us. So yeah, like we were like some 20, 30 meters down, and my instructor Vanil, like wonderful person again, from Sea Explorer Club in GT Faru Resort in the Maldives. So she, has been an amazing instructor for me, and she taught us like different kinds of exercises in the depth as well, where they make you take off your mask, they make you take off your jacket, they make you do different kinds of worst case scenarios in case those things actually happen to
Happen.
you in the future.
All right.
Yeah. So luckily for us, nothing really happened because my instructor was always with me, like, holding my hand, not holding my hand, but figuratively holding my hand.
Yeah.
And she was there, so nothing really went wrong. But we were prepared for like the worst case scenario.
So when you talk
So am
about
I going on and on?
no. So
Yeah.
you didn't. Okay. Uh, so so we need to figure out what is the best time to get there, right? You mentioned okay, the sea was rough, things were happening differently than usual, right? So what is it that
Yeah.
you think that will be the best time to get there?
100% when it's not raining. So if you're planning to do this, like everybody should know this, that do not dive when it's raining. Otherwise, it's a completely different experience. But we were lucky that it didn't get hampered that much. But of course, your visibility, a lot of like the water's not choppy, so you can you're freer. Yeah, you can like drift more easily, and you have more control over your buoyancy and all of that. Yeah. So the last time that I went, so you can always start with snorkeling. If diving is a bit much for you, you can definitely take up snorkeling where you're not really going into the depth of the water. You're on the surface. So you're literally like floating, and then you can feel like because the waterbed is so beautiful and the marine life is so colorful. Even by snorkeling, you can definitely see some of the beauties of the ocean. So like this time as well, like we took up a snorkeling excursion where you can take up different kinds of excursions if you want to do like a turtle snorkeling excursion or a manta ray snorkeling excursion or a whale shark one, whatever.
All right.
So we took up a manta ray snorkeling excursion where we went searching for these huge manta rays in the middle of the ocean. And then I think it was 2 hours in and we didn't find any mantas, and I was really upset. I was like, oh god, because this was the reason I like sharks and mantas was my thing. Like I have to see them if I'm coming. So, but then luckily, the guy, he got a call from someone that, okay, there are like 3 mantas here, come fast. So then we went, we jumped in, we snorkeled, and we swam with these humongous, gentle giants that these mantas are. Like they have these huge wings, and then they like just flap their wings in the water, and they look so glorious and they look so elegant and beautiful. Like you just fall in love with them. And there was a time when we were almost going to go back, and my instructor's like, wait, don't go back. And then we look down, and there's like a pool of like 10, 15 mantas who just came, and they circled around, like they swam with us, and then they went, and it was just so beautiful. Like it was, yeah. So snorkeling is something that you can take up. There are different kinds of water-based activities as well that every island in the Maldives will offer. And if like someone doesn't want to spend that much money as well, there are cheap ways to do it. So in Malay itself, there are a number of diving schools which give you like a solid package where you get like your entire dive certification, accommodation, food, all of that at a certain cost, which is comparatively cheaper than what you would spend in a resort. And you get to stay in relatively like humble accommodation. It's not as fancy as like your regular open water, like villas and stuff like that. But it's still not bad. Like it's still the Maldives. So I feel like anywhere you would stay there is still going to be beautiful because the nature around you is so nice. So I would highly recommend that to people.
So any travel hacks that you can suggest to people who are listening right here, to anybody who's going to Maldives, anything that they must eat or anything they must drink over there, anything that you were like, oh wow, I wish this is something that I could have in Bombay.
Oh, everything. But I feel like
That's a
it's
little too
important.
much. You can't
Yeah,
have
no, but
everything.
see, yeah. The other thing is that a lot of resorts offer these all-inclusive packages. It's extremely important to take that because Maldives itself is really expensive. So when you take an all-inclusive package, you end up saving your cost in terms of your food and beverage. So as like everybody knows that Maldives is really hard to get to. So once you get into Malay and then you take a speedboat and go to your island, or you take a seaplane. So there is like every resort is essentially an island. So when you're in the island, that is your home, that is your hotel, that is everything. So the accessibility is a little limited. So you have to ensure that you're prepared. And if you want, like, take some snacks from home or whatever, because everything is super expensive there. So just in terms of food and beverage, I would say, like, be prepared and do as much as research as you can possible beforehand, because that will help you. Like, when once you're there, you don't want to be like, oh, I should have taken up this package or that package, and like, and like mark your days. Like every single minute in the Maldives
Make
is
an
important
itinerary.
because it's expensive, right? You're spending so much money. So make sure that you mark your calendar that you want to do this in the morning, this in the evening. Just plan it out. Don't take it easy because you'll regret it once you're done, like when you're coming
So
back.
sleep for less hours, be awake for more hours.
Don't sleep only, like, because you have to sleep. But like anyway, I feel like once it's like 6, 7 in the morning, you wake up and like we used to do that. We used to dive really early, right? Because that's the best time. So you wake up by 6 in the morning and prepare for your dive and then come back, have lunch, then dive again, and then come back, and then you're dead. You're so dead because diving is exhausting. So we would just like die and like sleep off. Because it was so hard. Like we couldn't really enjoy it the way we wanted to. So in the fun sense of it. But
Got it.
of course, the
You went
diving
there
is
for a purpose and you've
the
achieved
highlight.
that purpose, I think.
Exactly. It
I
was the
think
purpose, yeah.
so. This sums up your adventure in the place that you went, Maldives. So tell us about the last thing that I ask every guest on my podcast. That's the your life lesson on what you've learned all throughout your life, because it's important for us to also know that your journey is something that we've covered through the podcast. But I want people to be left with a lesson, and I think you should take it up from there.
Yeah, for me, I feel like whenever I do travel and I see things which blow my mind, like the mantas and the sharks and stuff, you realize how minuscule you are as a person and how small your entity is in if you compare it to the expanse of the world and the universe. So for me, like diving was like going into another realm and diving, like going into like space or going into another dimension of the world. So I am also very fascinated by science fiction, and I almost felt like I was floating in another world. And I was just like, how small am I? How small are my problems? How small is my mindset? Traveling helps you evolve. It kind of opens up your mind. It shows you things that are in the world, and it makes you realize that you're nothing. You are a tiny little speck on this planet, and you shouldn't take yourself so seriously.
All right, all right. I think that's great advice to everyone and everybody who's listening. So Akanksha, thank you so much for taking the time out again, once again. And
My pleasure. Yeah.
if anybody wants to reach out to you, please give them your Instagram ID for their travel queries or anything about Maldives. I think she'll be more than happy to help you. So that's it for us.
Yeah.
You get to tell
Thank
your
you so much,
Instagram
Kevin. Thanks. It was
ID.
an absolute pleasure. Yeah. So again, I'm not a pro, guys. Like, it's just that this is my experience, and it was wonderful. And I would love to talk to people about it and advise them on how they can start at least. Like, the next goal is, by the way, to become an advanced diver. So we'll probably do another podcast.
For sure.
So yeah, it's at the rate Akanksha_Maker.
All right, all right. So I think we've got what we needed, and thank you again.
Super. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kevin. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.